Welcome back to 33-year-old boomer ranting in a post-Soviet Eastern European town. You should always hide your power level. Let's talk about it. So if you're like me, you may have grown up watching Dragon Ball Z, and you may have noticed that the Saiyans at power levels, it's snowing by the way, it's over 9,000. Classic millennial meme. Now this video isn't about whether the power level is baked in or whether it's modifiable. What this video is about is the fact that you should never go around advertising your power level. You should always keep a secret. And there are in fact two different scenarios. Your power level can either be higher than expected or it can be lower than expected. And neither of those things are good, or at least people knowing about those things is never actually good. So the first instance is one in which your power level isn't really that high. This may be outside of your control. It might be your fault, it may not be your fault. But if your power level is in fact low, some people might take advantage of it. You see, in this world, power matters a lot. And can you see that? It's an Orthodox Christian church. I'm trying to get Luke Smith to notice me, the real one. It's a nice little Orthodox church. So power is very important in this world. And if you have none, some people will treat you very poorly. Now, if you're like me, if you like to be honorable, if you like to be honest, you will find yourself in situations where you will admit to having a low power level in that certain situation, primarily because you just want to be honest, you want to do the right thing. Unfortunately, some people do not have honor. And so, instead of interpreting your actions as what they were, which is a desire to be honorable, a desire to be truthful, instead they will interpret your actions as weakness, as you being gullible, or as you being stupid. LOL bro, why did he admit to that bro? Sort of thing. There's a stray dog over there, he's looking in the mirror. He doesn't understand that he's looking at himself. Classic. So if you have a low power level in some instances, in some situations, I'm not saying that you shouldn't admit to it if you wish to be truthful, if you wish to be honorable. But what I am saying is that there will be a price to be paid. Being vulnerable, being honorable doesn't come free. In fact, it comes with a pretty heavy price tag. And before you engage in honorable behavior, you better make sure that you're willing to pay the price. So that is what happens if you have a low power level and you reveal this information. It's a pretty cool little spot, isn't it? It's snowing quite heavily right now. It's very nice. Now what happens if you reveal yourself to have a high power level? This is where it gets complicated. I think most people instinctively understand the fact that having a low power level is bad and understand why that is. However, why would it be bad to have a high power level? Let's talk about it. You see, people generally don't appreciate being mogged. People don't like when they get mogged. They may not say anything back. They may not do anything about it. They may not even admit it to themselves. But people don't like getting mogged. And so, if you do mog people, whether you do it intentionally or perhaps unintentionally, especially if you do it unintentionally, people are gonna not like you very much. You see, whenever I've had a normal job that involved going to some sort of office or anything like that, my height and my build have always been a problem. People who are shorter or who aren't very physically impressive, they think that, oh, if only I was 6 foot something and built like a tank, all my problems would disappear. And that's just not how it works at all. You see, the bigger you are, if you're tall, if you're built like a tank, what happens is you will inevitably mog most people around you. And that is of course a problem if those people have any kind of say in your life, in your career, in anything like that. And in fact, the people that you are mogging, especially if you're doing it unintentionally, they will think that you're doing it on purpose. They will think that you're doing it so that you feel better or so that you feel powerful. And here's the reality. When you are tall, when you are built like a tank, you do not feel the need to mog other people because you are that, like, you have that stature. At no point are you going to feel that you need to mog those around you. It's usually people who are insecure who feel the need to actively mog people. But if you are secure in your build, in your height, why would you mog anyone? You're already the thing that those people think that you want to be. But that doesn't stop them from thinking that that's what you're doing. That doesn't stop them from thinking that you are actively making fun of them for not being 6 foot something or whatever. And so any job that I've ever had that involved any kind of physical presence, I would actively try to make myself look smaller. Whenever I would enter a room, I would try to sit down immediately because my physical presence becomes a problem very quickly. If you're at work and some 6'4" Eastern European walks into the room and he just stands there, you're gonna notice very quickly. And you don't want that. You want to be noticed in certain instances, but you don't want to be that guy. And so when you have a high power level, in whatever context, you should try and hide it as much as you can. If you are very physically attractive, some people are, you should try and downplay that in some instances. If you are highly intelligent, you shouldn't try to constantly remind people around you. And in fact, this is a very important one because mega autists have a tendency to correct people, even when it means nothing. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you're in a conversation with two other people, person A and person B. Now, let's say that person A makes a comment that is incorrect factually. They use an expression that isn't quite correct, you as an artist will immediately have the desire to jump in and correct them and say, no, it's actually, that's not the correct expression, it's actually this expression. Now, by doing so, you have demonstrated that you know more than person A. Now, this will have a double effect. The first effect is that it will embarrass person A in front of both you and person B. Person B will think you're a very unlikable person for doing that, and you would have ruined your relationship with both of those people. There are very few things that need to be corrected in the moment. Most things you can let go. And by correcting them, you have shown that you have a higher power level, that you are more intelligent, that you know more, but you have embarrassed person A and potentially even person B for no reason whatsoever, other than you feeling smart. And so that's a perfect example of when you should just keep your mouth shut and not say anything. And there's a lot of snow. Sometimes you just need to shut up and not say anything, because showing that you have a higher power level will not help anyone. It will not help anything. It will just make your life worse. Not to mention the fact that people thinking that you have a high power level will always get you into trouble. Let me give you an example. You know, if you ever read the Harry Potter books, they have those, what are they called? They had that, like the cloak, the wand, and the other thing. And the guy who, the Deathly Hallows, is that what they were called? Whatever. The guy who had the wand, he became an expert duelist. And so people around the world wanted to duel him constantly. Until eventually he got oofed. The guy who had the invisibility cloak, he disappeared. And then one day, when death was looking for him, he reappeared and accepted his fate. If you are perceived to have a high power level, people will always try and challenge you because they will want to increase their power level. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Because they want to increase their power level at your expense. For example, when I was in school, I was already quite tall. At secondary school, I was already like 5'11", 6 foot, something like that. And all the really dumb boys around me, which was most of them, by the way, they all wanted to fight me constantly. And I was violently disinterested. I wanted to read books. I wanted to go to the library and borrow books in English and read them. And I wanted to just, like, school was already a criminal waste of my time. I already hated every moment that I was stuck in school. And on top of that, you had these annoying little freaks who would constantly try and fight me. And I would constantly have to push them away. And then if I pushed them hard enough, they'd start crying and they'd call their free cousins who were 10 years older to come and beat me up, or try and come and beat me up. Oh. You see, people ask me why I hated school, why I never want to go back there, why I never want to meet anyone that I went to school with. That is why. You see, when you mog all the other kids, just with your presence, you don't even have to do anything, that becomes a headache. It becomes bothersome. It becomes a problem that you constantly have to deal with. It's like constantly having problems with like pipes bursting. Instead of like watching anime or whatever you were going to do, you have to constantly deal with these pipes that are constantly breaking. But of course, if you are tall, if you are a big boy, you can't really, you can't turn the mogging off. That just comes with the package. You just have to deal with it. My mistake in that context was not having a bunch of friends, being a loner. Because part of the reason why they were constantly trying to challenge me is because I was a loner, and they perceived me to be, I suppose, an easier target in a sense. I suppose the solution in that context was to have a bunch of friends and constantly hang out with them, and then the constant challenges would have gone away, I suppose. I guess that was the solution. I guess when you can't avoid mogging people, just make sure you have friends, I guess is the conclusion here. So yes, in conclusion, if you can, avoid revealing your power level. Whether it's low, whether it's high, it doesn't matter. Revealing your power level always comes with a bunch of problems that, I don't know about you, but I would rather avoid. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.